Welcome to 7 Days Report, your reliable source of information from all major news from around the world. I'm your host, Vasilios Nikolaos Vitsilogiannis, and I'm happy to have you here with us this evening. Every weekend at 12 p.m. and 9 p.m., we bring you the latest headlines, in-depth analysis, and insightful commentary on the stories that matter most. Whether you're tuning in for a recap of the week or looking for a deeper understanding of global events, we've got you covered. Let's start with our first news. Former President Joe Biden and his wife Jill have publicly thanked supporters for an outpouring of love and encouragement following the announcement of his diagnosis with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones. On Monday, the couple shared a heartfelt message on social media, accompanied by a photo of themselves and their cat, Willow. Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support, the post read. The phrase strongest in the broken places is one Biden has often quoted in times of adversity, drawing from Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. Biden, 82, received the diagnosis on Friday after experiencing urinary symptoms that led to the discovery of a nodule on his prostate during a routine exam. His office confirmed that the cancer, described as highly aggressive and with a Gleason score of 9, has metastasized to his bones. Despite the severity, doctors noted that the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The news has prompted a wave of bipartisan support, with messages from President Donald Trump, former President Barack Obama, and former Vice President Kamala Harris, among others. Biden and his family are currently reviewing treatment options with his physicians. As the Bidens navigate this challenging diagnosis, their message of resilience and gratitude has resonated with many, underscoring the universal impact of cancer and the importance of community support during difficult times. In a striking escalation of maritime tensions in the Baltic Sea, a Russian Su-35 fighter jet was deployed to protect an oil tanker believed to be part of Moscow's so-called Shadow Fleet, marking the first time Russia has overtly used military force to shield these clandestine vessels, according to officials and defense experts. The incident unfolded on May 13th, when the unflagged tanker Jaguar, recently sanctioned by the UK, entered Estonian waters. Estonian naval forces attempted to inspect the vessel, which refused to comply with orders to halt. In response, the Russian fighter jet briefly entered Estonian airspace, flying over the ship in what Estonian authorities described as a direct attempt to prevent the tanker's seizure. The Estonian military ultimately escorted the Jaguar out of its waters, while NATO dispatched Portuguese F-16s to monitor the situation. Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna called the move a completely new development, emphasizing that Russia has now officially linked itself to the Shadow Fleet, an informal network of aging, often uninsured tankers used to circumvent Western sanctions on Russian oil exports. Experts say the Kremlin's unprecedented show of force signals a significant shift in strategy, with Russia now openly prepared to defend its economic lifelines against Western interdiction attempts. This is a clear indication that Russia wants no interference with the ships that are increasingly instrumental to its war economy, noted Sebastian Bruns of the Institute for Security Policy at Kiel University. The Shadow Fleet, estimated to number in the hundreds, has faced mounting scrutiny for its role in sanctions evasion and alleged environmental and infrastructure damage in the Baltic region. NATO officials warned that Russia's actions would not deter alliance efforts to uphold maritime security, while European leaders hinted at new sanctions targeting the Shadow Fleet in response. The Kremlin has not commented on the incident, but the episode underscores the growing risks of confrontation as Western states intensify efforts to enforce sanctions and Russia doubles down on protecting its covert oil exports. Despite Israel's recent decision to allow limited humanitarian aid into Gaza following an 11-week blockade, the United Nations reports that no assistance has yet reached civilians, intensifying international scrutiny of Israel's handling of the crisis. On Tuesday, Israeli authorities confirmed that 93 trucks carrying essential supplies, including flour, baby formula, and medical items, entered Gaza via the Kerem Shalom crossing. However, UN teams on the ground say the aid remains stranded on the Palestinian side of the border as they have not received the necessary authorization from the Israeli military to access and distribute the goods. Our team waited several hours for the Israeli green light to access the area and collect the nutrition supplies. Unfortunately, they were not able to bring those supplies into our warehouse, said UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric. The ongoing delays come amid dire warnings from humanitarian agencies about an impending famine in Gaza. UN officials estimate that approximately 14,000 infants are at risk of dying within days if aid does not reach them, underscoring the urgency of the situation. The UN has emphasized that approximately 600 trucks per day are required to adequately address the humanitarian crisis, significantly exceeding the current trickle of deliveries. International pressure on Israel is mounting. The United Kingdom has paused trade talks, calling Israel's actions morally unjustifiable, while the European Union is reassessing its trade agreement with Israel in response to the ongoing crisis. The United Arab Emirates also announced a new deal with Israel to provide urgent food and infant care supplies for 15,000 civilians in Gaza. However, UN officials caution that these efforts remain a drop in the ocean compared to the scale of need. As calls grow for a full resumption of aid, the situation for Gaza's civilian population remains critical, with no clear timeline for when desperately needed supplies will reach those most at risk. A UK High Court has issued a last-minute injunction temporarily blocking the British government from signing a landmark agreement to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. The decision came just hours before a virtual ceremony was scheduled to formalize the deal, which would have ended decades of dispute over the Indian Ocean archipelago. The emergency order was granted early Thursday morning after two British nationals, Bertrice Pompey and Bernadette Dugas, both born on Diego Garcia, the largest of the Chagos Islands, filed a legal challenge. They argued that the proposed treaty was being rushed through without meaningful consultation with the Chagosian community, many of whom were forcibly removed from the islands in the 1960s and 1970s to make way for a joint UK-US military base. Judge Julian Goose ordered the government to refrain from taking any definitive or legally enforceable action regarding the sovereignty transfer until a full judicial review could be conducted. The hearing is scheduled for later in the day, with the government and legal teams preparing for a swift resolution. The planned agreement, first revealed in October, would see the UK cede sovereignty to Mauritius but retain military oversight of Diego Garcia through a 99-year lease, ensuring continued operation of the strategically vital base. The deal, reportedly worth around $9 billion, has faced criticism over the exclusion of Chagosians from negotiations and concerns about national security and the future of the displaced community. Chagosian groups and supporters rallied outside the High Court, demanding justice, transparency, and a halt to the treaty process. The case has reignited debate over the rights of Chagosians and the legacy of colonial-era decisions, with critics urging the government to engage with those most affected before proceeding. Haiti's top officials issued an urgent plea for immediate security assistance from neighboring countries at a high-stakes Organization of American States, OAS, meeting on Thursday, as the United States signaled it would halt current funding for efforts to combat the country's spiraling gang violence. The call for help comes amid a worsening crisis. Armed gangs, many wielding firearms believed to be smuggled from the U.S. and across the Dominican border, now control much of the capital and are expanding into central and agricultural regions. Over 1 million Haitians have been displaced, and the country's fragile police force, with just 12,000 officers for nearly 12 million people, is overwhelmed. While we remain committed to helping the Haitian people attain the peace, security, and prosperity they rightfully deserve, the United States cannot continue to bear such a substantial financial load, said Barbara Feinstein, U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary for Caribbean Affairs. The U.S. has slashed overseas aid and frozen previously pledged funds for the UN-backed security mission, which is led by Kenya but remains under-resourced and understaffed. OAS Secretary General Luis Almagro acknowledged the Kenya-led mission's struggles and said the organization is exploring new strategies. Only about 1,000 of the planned 2,500 multinational personnel are currently deployed, operating at just 30% equipment capacity. Haitian ministers warned that the criminal economy, fueled by cocaine trafficking and arms smuggling, threatens to place the country entirely under gang control. "We urgently require assistance from the international community," said Haiti's Minister Janachel Mo. With the U.S. stepping back, regional leaders face mounting pressure to intervene as the humanitarian and security crisis threatens to destabilize not just Haiti, but the wider Caribbean. As we wrap up another edition of the 7 Days Report, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks for joining me this evening. We've covered a wide array of significant global events, and I hope you found our news insightful and engaging. Remember, you can catch us every weekend at 12 p.m. and 9 p.m. for your weekly major news from around the world. Stay tuned for our next meeting, where we'll dive deeper into the stories shaping our world. Until then, take care and keep informed. This is Vasilios Nikolaos Vitsilogiannis signing off. Goodbye.